It's not a good idea to go on Reddit in the first place, but on rare occasions, curiosity gets the better of you while you are waiting for something to finish compiling or rendering, or while waiting in line at the bank, since some financial transactions are best not trusted to online banking. Whatever the occasion, after a glance at the centerpiece of the modern mainstream D&D world, one finds themselves having to ask a question that has been present and unanswered for years now, that is almost tiresome to ask again, though not as tiresome as it is seeing it. Why is there still so much goddamn freak shit? Every single piece of generic soulless digital art that plagues the front page of the D&D subreddit is of some horned, rainbow-skinned, piercing-adorned punk that looks like it belongs in Star Wars. Not D&D, but it isn't in Star Wars, it's here. And it's what players expect to be allowed to play nowadays, along with a bard with an electric guitar, and artificer with a modern-day computer, and all sorts of other garbage. And for as much as it tries to be different, none of it is memorable or interesting. It's easy to understand why these artists get so absolutely livid with rage over the mere mention of AI art, even when it's not used for any products, because the generic soulless flat art that an AI model produces is the same kind of uninspired slop they spend hours on. Technically, these art pieces are decent, but in terms of style and what they depict, they are so utterly boring. How much of that can be played on the freak shit characters they depict? Arguably a lot. They try so hard to be different that their character just seems like yet another cartoon character, another face in the multicolored crowd that seems hardly related to D&D at all, honestly, and all but unrecognizable to a D&D player from even the early 2000s at this point. And while the D&D hobby was certainly always full of god-awful amateur character art, and we were merely shielded from it by a less accessible internet, I'd like to think that before the Tumblr crowd took over D&D, it wasn't so full of brightly colored tieflings in blue jeans with heterochromia and whatever other dog shit these people use to try to make their one-dimensional characters seem more interesting. There really isn't anything they can do. Freak shit has completely taken over, and as the D&D designers removed racial stat modifiers to combat bioessentialism, the race mechanic of the game becomes ever more vestigial. Perhaps removing those modifiers was a good thing overall, but what would be better would be if they removed a good chunk of those races from the game. We don't need them, and they usually don't add much. And when they could be interesting, they are ruined by spasmodic normal fucks who insert all manner of modern conceits into the game, probably even copy-pasting the list of SSRIs and other psychoactive medications their characters are taking. These people see themselves as flamboyant mutants, and the dysphoria they must experience from waking up every day as a normal human being, albeit likely with colored hair and too many piercings, is pitiable. But that doesn't mean the aesthetic of our fantasy games should be ruined. I suppose this is an overreaction to seeing Reddit being Reddit, as the cesspit it is known to be, but it's just another reminder that this garbage does not end. Even as Critical Role becomes less and less relevant, the huge popularity surge fueled by the bat flu scamdemic starts to fade, and the main designers quit Wizards of the Coast one by one. The scars on the hobby remain. The people who came here for a good time will now be here for a long time. They succeeded in their goal of flooding the hobby and diluting it, and the old culture and aesthetic will never come back. This doesn't matter, of course, to most of the people watching this video, mostly Gen Z millennials and the like. That is fine. You can't miss what you never knew, though hopefully that cohort will begin to long for something else in their games, something other than shit that looks like it's from Steven Universe or one of those quote-unquote adult cartoons that merely serve to infantilize men and perpetuate their Peter Pan syndrome, as well as reinforce ADHD to sell more Ritalin or whatever Talmudic shit is being pushed nowadays. Whatever. There really is no point to complaining about it anymore. We are stuck with what we tolerated, and despite all the warnings that myself and many others gave at the time, they were not heeded, like so many tend not to be. It's a sad state of affairs, but perhaps it will fall out of fashion on its own. Until then, we can perhaps have refuge in the OSR, so long as we avoid the horde of Kelsey Dion simps playing Shadow Dark. Hopefully, they are satisfied with that game and don't spill over into the rest of the one last refuge we have left. Hopefully they add more freak shit to Shadow Dark to keep the 5th edition D&D refugees tightly nestled there.